What would drive a radiologist with 15 years of experience to request a transfer to a different department after reviewing just one scan? In today's story, you'll discover the case that fundamentally changed how I view medical imaging and left me questioning everything I thought I knew about the limits of diagnostic radiology. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the A Comment Below channel and hit that notification bell. Leave telling me where you're watching from. And if you're brave enough, stay until the end to hear what happened when we tried to follow up on this case 6 months later. There are moments in a medical professional's career when they encounter something that defies explanation, something that challenges every principle they've learned about human anatomy and physiology. I experienced such a moment on a Tuesday evening in October, and the image from that scan is permanently burned into my memory. My name is Dr. Sarah Martinez, and I'm a board-certified radiologist with 15 years of experience in diagnostic imaging. I've reviewed tens of thousands of CT scans, MRIs, and X-rays throughout my career. I've seen rare conditions, unusual presentations, and cases that stumped entire medical teams. I thought I had developed an unshakable confidence in my ability to interpret medical images and provide accurate diagnoses. I was completely wrong. The case I'm about to describe took place during my evening shift at Metropolitan General Hospital, a major teaching hospital located in the heart of downtown Chicago. As the senior radiologist on duty, I was responsible for reviewing emergency scans and providing immediate interpretations for the emergency department and trauma teams. Metropolitan General is a 600-bed facility that serves as a Level 1 trauma center for the entire metropolitan area. Our radiology department processes over 200 imaging studies daily, ranging from routine chest X-rays to complex multi-phase CT scans. The department operates 24 hours a day, with radiologists working in shifts to ensure continuous coverage for emergency cases. That particular Tuesday evening start, I had, like any other night shift, arrived at 6 p.m. to begin my 12-hour rotation, taking over from Dr. Michael Chen, who briefed me on the pending cases and any ongoing studies that required follow-up. The emergency department was moderately busy with the usual mix of trauma cases, abdominal pain evaluations, and neurological emergencies. By 9:30 p.m., I had reviewed approximately 40 studies without encountering anything particularly unusual. A few interesting cases, certainly, but nothing that fell outside the normal spectrum of emergency radiology. I was settling into the familiar rhythm of image interpretation when the phone rang. "Dr. Martinez, we have an urgent CT scan coming up from the emergency department," said Jennifer Walsh, one of our senior technologists. The patient is a 34-year-old female who came in with severe headaches and visual disturbances. Dr. Patterson wants the scan reviewed immediately. I pulled up the study as soon as it appeared in our imaging system. The patient, whom I'll call Lisa Morrison to protect her privacy, had been experiencing progressively worsening headaches over the past 3 weeks, accompanied by episodes of blurred vision and what she described as seeing things that weren't there. The initial scout images appeared normal, showing proper positioning and adequate coverage of the brain and surrounding structures. But as I began reviewing the axial slices of the contrast-enhanced CT scan, I noticed something that made me pause and lean closer to my monitor. In the region of the temporal lobe, there was a structure that shouldn't have been there. At first glance, it appeared to be a mass or lesion, but as I scrolled through the consecutive images, I realized that what I was seeing defied conventional anatomical understanding. The structure appeared to be perfectly geometric, almost crystalline in nature, with sharp edges and surfaces that reflected the had never observed in biological tissue. It measured contrast material in ways it seemed to be composed of multipled approximately 2.5 centimeters in diameter and interconnected chambers or compartments. I immediately called Dr. Patterson in the emergency department. Dr. Patterson, this is Dr. Martinez in Radiology. I'm looking at Lisa Morrison's head CT, and I need to ask you some questions about her presentation. Go ahead, Sarah. What are you seeing? Before I describe the findings, can you tell me more about her symptoms? Has she mentioned any recent trauma, exposure to foreign materials, or unusual medical procedures? Dr. Patterson reviewed Lisa's no chart. Exposures. She, no known history of trauma, no recent procedures, ARDS. The headaches started about 3 weeks ago and works as an accountant. No occupational has have been getting progressively worse. She also mentioned seeing geometric patterns and shapes that move in her peripheral vision. I stared at the scan again, trying to reconcile what I was observing with my understanding of human anatomy. The structure appeared to be generating its own contrast enhancement, creating patterns of light and shadow that seemed to shift as I adjusted the window and level settings on my monitor. Dr. Patterson, I'm going to need you to repeat the scan. I think equipment malfunction or there may be an artifact. Scan looks malfunction. The equipment here. I understand technically adequate FROMD, but I'm seeing something that doesn't make medical sense. Let's repeat the study and see if we get the same findings. 30 minutes later, the repeat scan appeared on my workstation. I opened both studies side by side and began comparing them slice by slice. The structure was still there, unchanged in size or position, but somehow it appeared even more defined in the second scan. More disturbing was what I noticed when I measured the structure using our imaging software. The geometric object appeared to be expanding, not in size, but in complexity. Where the first scan showed what looked like a simple crystalline formation, the second scan revealed intricate internal patterns that resembled circuitry or some form of organized network. I picked up the phone to call our Chief of Radiology, Dr. Robert Harrison, despite the late hour. Dr. Harrison had been practicing radiology for over 25 years and had seen virtually every type of abnormality that could appear on medical imaging. Bob, this is Sarah. I apologize for calling so late, but I need you to look at a case. I'm seeing something on a head CT that I can't explain. Dr. Harrison arrived at the hospital within 45 minutes, despite living nearly an hour away. He was a dedicated physician who took unusual cases seriously, understanding that rare findings often led to important medical discoveries or represented life-threatening conditions that required immediate attention. "Show me what you've got, Sarah," he said as he settled in at the workstation next to mine. I pulled up both of Lisa's CT scans and began walking him through the findings. As I scrolled through the images, I watched his expression change from professional interest to confusion, and then to something I had never seen on his face before: genuine bewilderment. "Sarah, are you certain this is a head CT and not some kind of experimental imaging study? I've triple-checked everything. This is definitely a standard contrast-enhanced CT of the brain, performed on our usual equipment with our standard protocols." Dr. Harrison spent the next hour reviewing every aspect of the scan. He examined the technical parameters, checked for equipment malfunctions, and even had our senior technologist, Mark Rodriguez, review the imaging protocols to ensure nothing unusual had occurred during the acquisition. The structure in Lisa's brain continued to defy explanation. It appeared to be composed of materials that shouldn't exist in biological systems, arranged in patterns that resembled advanced technology more than any known pathological process. Most troubling was what happened when we tried to measure the structure's density using Hounsfield units, the standard method for quantifying tissue characteristics on CT scans. The readings were inconsistent, fluctuating in ways that suggested the structure was somehow changing its physical properties in real time. Dr. Harrison pulled up our imaging physics manual and began cross-referencing the density measurements with known biological and pathological tissues. Nothing in our extensive database matched what we were observing. The Hounsfield unit readings ranged from 200 to 0.300, fluctuating randomly across different areas of the structure within the span of minutes. Sarah, I want you to contact Dr. Elizabeth Chen at Northwestern Memorial. She specializes in unusual neuroimaging findings and has published extensively on rare brain lesions. If anyone can help us understand this, it's her. While Dr. Harrison made arrangements to transfer the imaging files securely to Dr. Chen, I returned to the emergency department to examine Lisa Morrison in person. What I found there was equally disturbing as the scan findings. Lisa was sitting upright in her hospital bed, appearing remarkably calm for someone with such unusual brain imaging. Her neurological examination was completely normal. She was alert, oriented, and showed no signs of increased intracranial pressure or focal neurological deficits. Miss from Radiology. How? Morrison, I'm Dr. Martinez. Are you feeling right now? Actually, Dr. Martinez, I feel better than I have in weeks. The headache is completely gone, and my vision is clearer than it's ever been. It's strange, but I feel like I can see things more sharply, notice details I never noticed before. Can you describe the visual disturbances you were experiencing earlier? Lisa paused thoughtfully. It wasn't really seeing things that weren't there. It was more like seeing things that are always there but usually invisible. Patterns in the air, connections between objects, like the world has this underlying structure that most people can't see. Her description sent chills down my spine. The geometric patterns she was describing sounded remarkably similar to what I was observing in her brain scans. Dr. Patterson approached me at the nurse's station with Lisa's latest vital signs and blood work results. Everything was not only normal but actually improved from her initial presentation. Her blood pressure had normalized, her heart rate was steady, and her neurological assessment remained completely intact. Sarah, this doesn't make sense. Patients with significant brain lesions don't typically show improvement in their clinical status, especially not this rapidly. I agreed, but the imaging findings were undeniable. Whatever was in Lisa's brain was there, was measurable, and was apparently causing her symptoms to improve rather than worsen. Dr. Chen called back within 2 hours of receiving our imaging files. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and concern that I had rarely heard from such an experienced physician. Dr. Martinez, I've reviewed the scans multiple times, and I've never encountered anything like this in 20 years of neuroimaging. The structure appears to be organizing itself into increasingly complex patterns. Have you considered the possibility that this might not be pathological? What do you mean? I mean, what if this structure is somehow beneficial? The patient's symptoms are improving, her neurological function is enhanced, and the structure appears to be integrating with her existing brain tissue rather than displacing or destroying it. Dr. Chen's hypothesis was both fascinating and terrifying. If she was correct, we were observing some form of biological enhancement or evolution occurring in real time within a human brain. Over the next 6 hours, we performed additional imaging studies at 2-hour intervals to document any changes in the structure. Each subsequent scan revealed increasing complexity and organization. The crystalline formation had developed what appeared to be neural connections, integrating with Lisa's existing brain networks. Most remarkably, Lisa's cognitive function continued to improve with each scan. She began solving complex mathematical problems that our neurology residents couldn't complete. She demonstrated perfect recall of conversations from years past and showed an ability to process visual information at speeds that seemed superhuman. By morning, the structure had evolved into something that resembled advanced neural circuitry more than any known biological tissue. It had established connections with multiple brain regions, including areas responsible for memory, visual processing, and higher cognitive function. Lisa's transformation was equally dramatic. She spoke eloquently about concepts in physics and mathematics that she claimed to have never studied. She described seeing electromagnetic fields around electronic devices and claimed she could perceive radio waves and wireless signals in the environment. Dr. Harrison assembled a multidisciplinary team including neurologists, neurosurgeons, and medical physicists to evaluate Lisa's case. Every specialist who examined her reached the same conclusion. Her condition was medically impossible, yet clearly documented and continuously improving. The most disturbing development occurred when we attempted to biopsy the structure. The neurosurgeon, Dr. James Mitchell, reported that his surgical instruments couldn't penetrate the formation. It appeared to generate some form of protective field that deflected all attempts at tissue sampling. Lisa herself became increasingly protective of what she had started calling her enhancement. She refused further invasive procedures and insisted that she felt better than she had ever felt in her life. Her family members confirmed that her personality remained unchanged, but her capabilities had expanded dramatically. Word of Lisa's case began spreading through the medical community despite our attempts at confidentiality. Researchers from major universities contacted our hospital requesting access to her imaging studies and clinical data. Government agencies expressed interest in her condition, though we refused to provide information without proper legal authorization. 3 weeks after her initial presentation, Lisa Morrison discharged herself from the hospital against medical advice. She had passed every cognitive and psychological evaluation we administered, demonstrating complete mental competency despite her extraordinary condition. The final scan we obtained before her discharge showed the structure had achieved what appeared to be a stable configuration. It had grown to occupy nearly 10% of her brain volume, but rather than causing mass effect or tissue displacement, it seemed to exist in harmony with her existing neural architecture. Lisa left the hospital with instructions to return for regular monitoring, but she never kept another appointment. When we attempted to contact her, we discovered that she had disappeared entirely. Her apartment was empty, her job abandoned, and her family claimed they had no knowledge of her whereabouts. 6 months after Lisa's disappearance, I received a phone call that would forever change my understanding of what we had witnessed. The caller identified himself as Dr. Marcus Webb from the Centers for Disease Control, and he wanted to discuss Lisa Morrison's case. Dr. Martinez, we need to meet. There have been other cases similar to your patient, and we believe you may have documented the first clear imaging evidence of a phenomenon we've been tracking for the past 2 years. I agreed to meet Dr. Webb at a coffee shop downtown, away from the hospital. When he arrived, he was accompanied by Dr. Sarah Kim, a neurobiologist from the National Institutes of Health. Both carried classified briefings and spoke in hushed tones about cases that sounded remarkably similar to Lisa's. Dr. Martinez, we've identified 17 other individuals across North America who have presented with similar symptoms and imaging findings. Each case involves the spontaneous appearance of geometric structures in brain tissue, followed by dramatic cognitive enhancement. The implications of what Dr. Webb was telling me were staggering. Lisa's case wasn't isolated. There was a pattern emerging that suggested something far more significant than a rare medical condition. Dr. Kim opened her briefing folder and showed me imaging studies from patients in Toronto, Denver, and Miami. Each scan revealed structures nearly identical to what we had observed in Lisa's brain. The geometric formations varied slightly in size and configuration, but the underlying pattern was unmistakable. What's most concerning, Dr. Martinez, is that every single patient has disappeared within weeks of their initial diagnosis. They all demonstrate the same pattern of cognitive enhancement, followed by increasing secrecy about their condition, and then complete disappearance from their normal lives. I studied the images Dr. Kim had brought, noting the remarkable similarities to Lisa's scans, but there was something else in these files that made my blood run cold. Each patient had been monitored for several weeks before their disappearance, and the final scans showed that the structures had begun communicating with each other across vast distances. How is that possible? I asked. We don't fully understand the mechanism, but electromagnetic monitoring has detected coordinated signal patterns between patients separated by thousands of miles. The structures appear to be networked, sharing information and coordinating their development. Dr. Webb leaned forward, his expression grave. Dr. Martinez, we believe these individuals are no longer entirely human. The structures aren't just enhancing their cognitive abilities, they're fundamentally altering their neural architecture and possibly their consciousness itself. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I had been so focused on the medical mystery that I hadn't considered the broader implications of what Lisa's transformation might represent. We hadn't witnessed a rare medical condition. We had documented the beginning of something that could change the nature of human existence. Have you been able to determine the origin of these structures? I asked. That's the most disturbing aspect of this phenomenon. Every patient we've investigated has no memory of how or when the structures first appeared. They all report the same 3-week progression of symptoms, but none can identify any triggering event or exposure. Dr. Kim pulled out additional files containing electron microscopy images of tissue samples that had somehow been obtained from earlier cases. The images showed structures that appeared to be constructed from materials that didn't match any known elements in the periodic table. Dr. Martinez, these formations are composed of matter that exhibits properties we've never encountered in biological systems. They appear to manipulate electromagnetic fields, process information at quantum levels, and demonstrate self-repairing capabilities that exceed anything in nature. I thought about Lisa's final weeks in the hospital, her claims about seeing invisible patterns and connections in the world around her. If Dr. Kim was correct, Lisa hadn't been hallucinating. She had been perceiving aspects of reality that normal human senses couldn't detect. What happened to the patients who disappeared? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. Dr. Webb exchanged glances with Dr. Kim before responding. We've traced some of them through financial records and surveillance footage. They appear to be gathering in remote locations, establishing communities that operate completely outside normal society. The communities they're forming don't use traditional infrastructure. No utility connections, no internet access through conventional means. Yet they appear to be highly organized and technologically advanced. Satellite imagery shows structures that shouldn't be possible to construct without heavy machinery and traditional building materials. Dr. Kim showed me aerial photographs of a compound in northern Montana where 7 enhanced individuals had been tracked. The buildings appeared to be grown rather than constructed, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and adapt to environmental conditions. Dr. Martinez, we need your help. You've had more direct contact with this phenomenon than any other medical professional. We're forming a task force to investigate these cases and determine whether they represent a threat to public health or national security. I stared at the photographs and imaging studies spread across our table, trying to process the magnitude of what I was learning. Lisa Morrison hadn't been an isolated medical case. She had been part of something that was quietly transforming selected individuals across the continent. What do you want me to do? I asked. We need you to monitor for additional cases. The structures seem to appear randomly, but there might be patterns we haven't identified. If you encounter another patient with similar findings, we need immediate notification. Dr. Webb handed me a secure communication device. This will connect you directly to our task force. Any time of day or night, if you see imaging findings that match what you observed in Lisa Morrison, contact us immediately. Over the following months, I found myself scrutinizing every brain scan with new intensity. I looked for geometric patterns, unusual density measurements, and any signs of the crystalline formations that had appeared in Lisa's temporal lobe. My colleagues noticed my increased attention to detail, but I couldn't share what I had learned from Dr. Webb and Dr. Kim. The information was classified, and I had signed agreements that prohibited disclosure of the enhanced individual phenomenon. 3 months after meeting with the task force, I encountered my second case. The patient was a 28-year-old graduate student named David Chen, who presented with headaches and visual disturbances remarkably similar to Lisa's initial symptoms. As I reviewed David's CT scan, my heart rate increased. There, in his right parietal lobe, was a structure identical to what I had observed in Lisa Morrison. The same geometric patterns, the same impossible density measurements, the same integration with existing brain tissue. I immediately activated the secure communication device Dr. Webb had given me. Within hours, the task force had mobilized, and David Chen was transferred to a secure medical facility for comprehensive evaluation and monitoring. Unlike Lisa, David was cooperative with the research protocols. He allowed extensive testing and documentation of his transformation, providing unprecedented insights into the enhancement process. David's cognitive abilities increased dramatically over the 2 weeks following his initial scan. He demonstrated perfect memory recall, solved complex mathematical proofs in minutes, and began exhibiting the same perceptual abilities Lisa had described. Most remarkably, David claimed he could sense the presence of other enhanced individuals. He reported feeling connected to a network of consciousness that spanned across continents, sharing information and experiences with people he had never met. Dr. Webb and his team documented everything, but David's cooperation lasted only until his enhancement reached full maturity. On his 15th day in the facility, he simply walked out, bypassing all security systems without triggering any alarms. Security footage showed David approaching each checkpoint and somehow causing the guards to step aside without any apparent interaction. Electronic locks opened automatically, and surveillance cameras malfunctioned at precisely the moments he passed beneath them. The task force's attempts to track David's movements failed completely. He had vanished as thoroughly as Lisa Morrison and the other enhanced individuals, leaving behind only questions about the nature of human consciousness and the possibility that our species was undergoing some form of directed evolution. Dr. Webb contacted me a week after David's disappearance with news that fundamentally changed my perspective on the entire phenomenon. Dr. Martinez, we've made a breakthrough in understanding the origin of these structures. They're not appearing randomly, and they're not the result of any known medical condition or exposure. What have you discovered? The structures appear to be selecting their hosts based on specific genetic markers and neurological profiles. This isn't a disease or contamination, Dr. Martinez. This is recruitment. The revelation that these structures were actively recruiting specific individuals sent a chill through my entire body. Everything we had assumed about Lisa's case, about David's transformation, had been fundamentally wrong from the beginning. Dr. Webb, what do you mean by recruitment? I asked, though part of me already feared the answer. The genetic analysis we've conducted on tissue samples shows that every enhanced individual shares specific DNA sequences that are incredibly rare in the general population. We're talking about markers that appear in less than 0.01% of humans worldwide. Dr. Kim's voice joined the conversation through the secure line. Dr. Martinez, the neurological profiles are even more specific. Each individual demonstrates unique brain architecture patterns that create optimal conditions for integration with these structures. The formations aren't randomly appearing. They're being placed in individuals who can best accommodate them. I thought about Lisa's rapid adaptation to her enhancement, how seamlessly the structure had integrated with her existing neural networks. If Dr. Webb was correct, she hadn't been a victim of some unknown medical condition. She had been specifically chosen. Chosen by whom? I asked. That's what we're trying to determine. The technology required to identify and target specific individuals across such a vast population suggests capabilities far beyond current human understanding. Over the next few days, Dr. Webb shared additional intelligence that painted an even more disturbing picture of what we were facing. The enhanced individuals weren't just gathering in remote communities. They were actively working on projects that defied conventional understanding of physics and engineering. Satellite surveillance had documented construction activities at several of these compounds that violated known laws of thermodynamics. Buildings were being erected without visible power sources. Materials were being shaped without traditional tools, and the entire communities appeared to be operating on principles that mainstream science couldn't explain. Dr. Martinez, we've intercepted electromagnetic communications between these communities that suggest they're coordinating on a global scale. Whatever these structures are doing to human consciousness, they're creating a unified network of enhanced individuals working toward some common purpose. The implications were staggering. If the enhanced individuals represented some form of evolutionary leap or technological integration, their coordinated activities suggested they might be preparing for something that could fundamentally alter human civilization. My role in the task force expanded as more cases began appearing across the country. The frequency was increasing, with new enhanced individuals being identified almost weekly. Each case followed the same pattern: sudden onset of headaches and visual disturbances, followed by the appearance of geometric structures in brain tissue, rapid cognitive enhancement, and eventual disappearance. I found myself becoming the primary medical consultant for the phenomenon, reviewing imaging studies from hospitals across North America, and training other radiologists to recognize the distinctive patterns associated with enhancement structures. The psychological toll of this knowledge was immense. Every day, I wondered if I might be next. Did I carry the genetic markers that made individuals susceptible to recruitment? Was there some aspect of my neurological profile that might attract these structures? Dr. Webb assured me that genetic testing had ruled out my susceptibility, but the fear remained. I had seen what enhancement did to people, how it fundamentally changed their relationship with reality and their connection to human society. 6 months after David's disappearance, I received a call that changed everything once again. The voice on the other end of the secure line was familiar, though I hadn't heard it in nearly a year. Dr. Martinez, this is Lisa Morrison. I know you've been wondering what happened to me. I nearly dropped the communication device. Lisa's voice was exactly as I remembered, but there was something different about it, a quality that seemed to resonate at frequencies that normal human speech couldn't achieve. Lisa, where are you? Are you safe? I'm safer than I've ever been, Dr. Martinez, and I'm calling because it's time for you to understand what's really happening to people like David and me. Lisa explained that the enhanced individuals had been monitoring the task force's activities since its formation. They were aware of every investigation, every attempt at tracking their movements, and every piece of research being conducted into their condition. Dr. Martinez, the structures you've been studying aren't foreign invaders or some kind of technological implant. They're evolutionary catalysts designed to help humanity transition to its next phase of development. According to Lisa, the enhanced individuals represented the early stages of a transformation that would eventually encompass all of humanity. The structures were selectively targeting individuals who could best adapt to the change and serve as bridges between current human consciousness and what she described as expanded awareness. The communities we've formed aren't retreats from society, Dr. Martinez. They're laboratories where we're learning to use our enhanced capabilities to solve problems that normal human intelligence can't address. Lisa described projects involving clean energy generation, environmental restoration, and medical breakthroughs that could eliminate most forms of disease and suffering. The enhanced individuals were working on solutions to climate change, poverty, and conflict, using cognitive abilities that far exceeded normal human capacity. But Dr. Martinez, these advances come with a price. Once you've experienced expanded consciousness, it becomes impossible to return to the limitations of normal human awareness. That's why we can't maintain our previous lives or relationships. The conversation with Lisa lasted for over 2 hours, during which she provided details about the enhancement process that no medical research had been able to uncover. The structures weren't just modifying brain function, they were creating entirely new forms of consciousness that could perceive and interact with reality in ways that defied current scientific understanding. Most disturbing was Lisa's revelation about the timeline for humanity's transition. According to her, the selective enhancement process was accelerating, with thousands of individuals worldwide undergoing transformation each month. Dr. Martinez, within the next decade, enhanced individuals will represent a significant portion of the global population. The question isn't whether this transformation will continue, but how humanity will adapt to the existence of two distinctly different forms of consciousness sharing the same planet. After Lisa ended the call, I sat in my office staring at the secure communication device, trying to process the implications of what she had told me. If she was correct, I wasn't just documenting a rare medical phenomenon. I was witnessing the beginning of humanity's evolutionary divergence into separate species. Dr. Webb contacted me the following day with news that confirmed some of Lisa's claims. Intelligence agencies had detected a massive increase in enhancement cases globally, with similar structures appearing in individuals across every continent. Dr. Martinez, we're no longer dealing with isolated incidents. This has become a global phenomenon that's accelerating beyond our ability to monitor or contain. The task force was being expanded into an international coalition involving medical researchers, intelligence agencies, and military organizations from multiple countries. The enhanced individual phenomenon had become a matter of global security and human survival. My final weeks as a radiologist at Metropolitan General were marked by an increasing sense of helplessness. Every brain scan I reviewed carried the possibility of revealing another case of enhancement, another individual about to undergo transformation that would fundamentally alter their relationship with humanity. That case fundamentally changed everything I thought I understood about medical imaging and human consciousness itself. Lisa Morrison's scan didn't just show an anomaly, it revealed the beginning of humanity's next evolutionary phase. Today, I work in outpatient radiology, reviewing routine X-rays and mammograms, but I still scrutinize every brain scan that crosses my desk. The secure communication device Dr. Webb gave me remains active, and I've documented 17 additional cases in the past year alone. Each time I see those geometric structures appearing in someone's temporal lobe, I know I'm witnessing another recruitment, another step toward a future where enhanced and unenhanced humans will coexist on the same planet. That scan still haunts me because it wasn't just medical imaging. It was documentation of our species' transformation into something beyond current human understanding.